for this guy, his actions are, I need to have this regimented lifestyle, this is what I need to do. He's not hurting anybody. All right, cool. If he's doing some cool shit in the process.
I wonder what that was.
You know?
that triggered him to seek the healing.
Yeah.
Because like you said that the flip side is you give into it and then you just do it to somebody else. And then you just continue to do it until the law catches up to you.
Or even you don't do it to somebody else, you kind of just live a life in oblivion, where you're not harming anybody, but you're not doing any good to anybody. You kind of just, you're just there. And then people will be like, oh, you were here 5 years ago, leave you 10 years later, and you're in the same place. And it's like, it's not that you can't do what makes you comfortable or happy, but if what you're doing isn't good for you, technically, like, why are you doing it? Are you scared? Which I think a lot of the times as people, we can be scared. It's just hard to admit that you're scared.
Like Clara's book, like technically she's a woman, like obviously she's gone through her sentence and she decided to sleep for like a year, right? But her backstory is the same as Batman. Like that's gonna sound really ridiculous, but her backstory is the exact same as Batman.
Same as Batman?
Yeah. Yeah, as in like orphan because both of his parents died at the same, like around the same time basically, right? But that's literally Batman's like backstory in Batman. I mean, I don't want to be Batman, but maybe it's a lie.
There was something that came up about that popular culture loves the orphan child. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, all of these individuals are always orphaned. And then the guy went on to speak about how you've got to consider how a society treats its most vulnerable. And if you look at Western society in particular, if you look at the likes where foster care and orphans are, it's terrible. But we love a good story where the orphan or the foster child overcomes everything and becomes a hero. Because apparently it's the most, if I remember what he said correctly, it's like, because technically they have no family, they find themselves outside the family, so they're truly able to find themselves.
I wonder, like, and this is a question for the women, is our, like, flip side of that is finding the right man? And they were saying that all these men are orphans, they don't have their children, but they found redirection and they became heroes. What's the female version of that? Because the only thing, and again, I'm closed-minded. The only thing that comes to mind is like for us, it's the women that are the ones who have like good house, good homes, husband, children. Like, is that our version of it? And if it's not, then what comes to mind for us as women? For you guys? Because I don't know many women who are orphans and are seen as a hero. Women. Most of them have come from either like a good family or they've come from like privileged or, like I'm even trying to. Well, for the men, it's they're orphans and they had nothing. But then what would be it for the women?
Hero is someone who overcomes their adversity.
So then, what would be a woman's adversity for her to be deemed as a hero? Because I guess it's what, heartache.
Different people, it will be different adversity.
Okay, so what's a Katniss Everdeen? I don't know. Katniss Everdeen, you know, like Hunger Games. I'm just thinking of like female protagonists. Yeah. Hunger Games, but she had her family, she had everything.
Well, women are underestimated all the time, and in the sense of what is our overcoming, I would say that it's literally living in misogyny, living in a world where categorically we've kind of been at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of how the organization has been or who someone's going to listen to in a room. So I would say, like, most of the time, I think women still do have these harsh backgrounds too. You hear I've heard of so many cases of women with like really dark sexual trauma where you're like, whoa, you know, and how do you overcome it, right? Like you kind of, it's always coming back to, you come within, you have to sit with yourself, you have to say, hey, is this working for me? Am I having a good time here? Or do I need to switch it up? And some people don't come to that, and other people, I think, take their time in coming to that. But
what does it look like when they switch it up? Because I think these are the questions that are going to get closer to what being a hero is. So when they do switch it up, what does that look like?
different choices from what you're used to.
That's what you said.
What would those choices look like?
like you said, like ones that don't affect other people or don't hurt other people.
Yeah, and don't follow the same cycle of what
pattern.
you're used to. Like sometimes
They
you
break
have
the
to kind of
cycle.
break up the matrix a bit and be like, hey, okay, I'm used to doing this exact same thing every single time. Ooh, let me pause a second. Let me think about this. Okay, how did that work out last time? Is this making me feel similar to that situation? Like you have to ask yourself questions. You have to have the right people around you that are like, yo, I saw you doing this thing. I thought you weren't trying to do that anymore. You have to have people holding you accountable. Like, it's not just about you either. It's like you have to allow people in. You have to be vulnerable. Like for men, I feel for you guys because what you were saying, I was like, damn, what a lot, you know, to have to overcome that pain on your own and feel like that's when you can then go to a person and be like, oh yeah, this is, like that's a lot to carry. I can imagine like how much that is to carry, and it's actually made up because you don't have to do it that way. Like that's a different choice that you can make depending on the situation, depending on how it suits you, whatever.
It's
But
about how people react to it. How we might intellectualize something, as in I believe this, but what's your visceral reaction to it?
Facts.
Like it's a simple question I ask. Is there ever a scenario where it's not okay for a man to cry? If you have to think about it, is there ever a situation where it's not okay for a man to cry? If you have to think about it, it means you do not believe that men are inherently allowed to cry whenever. So when people talk about men being able to express themselves,
want men to cry.
They actually want. No, but if you're asking the question, when is it okay for them not to? Or is there a situation where it's not okay? If you already believe that it's okay for someone to express themselves, you wouldn't think when it's not okay for them to do that. Which is what I mean about what we intellectualize or what we say on an intellectual level, and what we viscerally like, what we react to on like a just an instinctual way. And that's what I mean.
Someone's reaction doesn't determine whether that's not like the standard of you know, whether it's acceptable. Just because somebody else has a visceral reaction means that maybe they've got unresolved stuff. But
that's what I mean. That's what I mean on an individual level. So what I'm saying is, if someone is to say, I believe you should be able to express yourself however you express yourself.
Yeah.
But then you ask them that question and then they think about it. It means what they've said in their head or what they've come out of their mouth isn't aligned with what they actually believe.
Regardless of what they believe, the issue isn't really their response, because you can still do whatever you want to do. If you want that kind of space to talk, maybe they're probably not the best person to talk to about it.
let people figure out how to show up for you in a way that's more authentic for you. Because I think
that's the flip side, though, is when you do open up and people don't react in that way. Some people do just go straight back in.
That's
and they will never step back out again.
That's true.
And then you've lost them.
100%.
And maybe for men, you know, you guys can come together and laugh about football and laugh about other experiences, but you might not be able to laugh about grief.
And it's other ways of
dealing with it. And I don't think for women, you can call women can lean on each other, just start crying, and we don't really need to know what it's about, but we would just be like, girl, you just take your time. But for guys, maybe it's not so straightforward, or maybe you just haven't been allowed to tap into that side of yourselves and see your friend go through something like that, and not know what to do, but just know just to hold space. Sometimes it's not even about what to say, it's just hold that space for them. It might not be an experience that you are familiar with or even know what to do in.
But I feel like to add a bit more clarity, what King was getting at is and bear in mind, I'm the one that also earlier was saying that being black and emotional is trendy now. Is that like no? Because I need to bring that because just to bring context. But it's like I think what King was addressing is that as time is moving on, yes, on an emotional and a personal level, men can be emotional, but still in terms of a societal level, in terms of the way men are viewed when being emotional, it's still seen as a sign of weakness. Even if you don't necessarily identify with your reaction, as a man, I can definitely tell you, still seen as a sign of weakness, 100%. It's by women and men.
If you have a weakness and you do not address it, you're weak. So these men that you speak about, who talk about, I've got over it, but they haven't addressed it, they're weak. So technically, David Goggins agrees with what you said 100%. A woman who is able to take a feeling in, process it, then look at it objectively, ask her friends, that's strong, but that's the same thing as a man who goes, you know what, when I was younger, this happened to me. I watched my mum do this, I watched my dad do this to my mum. It broke me. but I said to myself, I'll never be like that. And it made me become like this. And since then, anytime I do something, I try my best. I do not take any excuses against myself. I do whatever it is I can. That's him taking accountability for what he suffered and trying to say, I don't want to do that anymore, and he's moved on. I think it's the same thing when a woman expresses, processes, and does the same thing. I just think that it's the same coin, different sides. It's just that one side should be done by those who feel this is how I should do it. And then the other side should be done by those who feel I should do it this way. It's not a question of which one is right or wrong. I just feel it's the same coin, different sides. That's how I look at it.
And nor do I think it's man or woman, because I think that these things can overlap. Women can process things in that exact same way, and vice versa. Wolf? And wolf? No. Who's this?
Boxer.
Okay.
Female boxer.
Cool.
Terrible upbringing.
Oh God.
Absolutely terrible.
Where is she
The
from?
things that America, all the things that you've mentioned about abuse, difficult upbringing home. She became a championship boxer.
Yeah.
But for her, it's extreme.
Get
She's
through it.
literally fighting for a living. She had kids in a way that she wasn't prepared for. She fought, quite literally, to be able to provide for those children. So can it apply to both men and women to be militant? Of course. Harriet Tubman with the Underground Railroad. It's quite literal. They had to be prepared to either kill or be killed to be able to escape. So I don't think it's fair to say you have to be soft about it. Maybe if you have the space to do that, that means you have privilege to be able to do that. If you have privilege to be able to be soft, to be able to be soft means there's certain things on your periphery you don't have to worry about. If an individual is telling you that I had to be tough to get through it, it meant that they had things around them that did not allow them to be soft. That doesn't mean that they didn't want to be. Do you know what I mean? That's what I said. It's the same coin. It's just two different sides.